Want to keep up with the latest LEGO Maker 96.1 videos? Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. Hello everyone, LEGO Maker 96.1 here with another video. And welcome back to another On This Day in History. It was on this day in history, the year was 1864. That was the day the Battle of the Wilderness was still going on. Now this battle lasted from May 5th to May 7th of 1864. And is one of the bloodiest battles was of the American Civil War. Now in this particular battle, many soldiers, some of them wounded mind you, were burned to death due to the fires that were sparked in that particular battle. Now, what led up to the Wilderness Battle anyway? Well, let's travel back to 1864. And in that particular year, Ulysses S. Grant, who was one of my favorite Civil War generals, mind you, and one of my favorite presidents, he was in command of all the Union armies. All of them. Now, mind you, the Union Army of the Potomac was going through commanders left and right to lead the Army of the Potomac. Irvin McDowell was one of those commanders. George McClellan, and Henry Halleck, like Ambrose Burnside, and Joseph Hooker, George Gordon Meade, all those commanders. Now, Lincoln picked Grant because well known to his successes on the battlefield. He captures Fort Henry and Fort Donelson. He won Shiloh. He captured Vicksburg. What else? Many other battles. Now, it was said, Lincoln actually said this in regards to Grant. He said, "I cannot spare this man. He fights." Though many people have mixed results on Grant. It was rumored that he was drunk during the Battle of Shiloh, though it hasn't been fully confirmed. No sources can back that issue up. Though many call Grant a butcher because of all the casualties that happened under his command. Some generals tend to live up to their reputation. But regardless, Grant is one of my favorite generals, and I'll stick by him. Now, since Grant became overall commander of the Army, the Potomac, and all commanders and all the armies on the field, he placed George Gordon Meade back in command of the Army of the Potomac, and he gave Meade these specific orders in regards to going after the Army of Northern Virginia. Lee's army is your objective. Wherever Lee goes, there you will go also. Now, the two armies met at a place called the Wilderness. Now, to the soldiers in the Army of the Potomac, it seems like history has came back to haunt them. Why is that? Well, 2 years ago in 1862, Chancellorsville happened. And in that particular wilderness, the Union Army, those in the 11th Corps, mind you, were routed by Jackson's forces in May of 1862. You know the infamous Jackson's flank attack at Chancellorsville? That's it. And when those soldiers stepped into that spot, they've seen in some sights, they've seen the remains of their fallen comrades. Some of them with their guns still in their hands and their bones bleaching in the sun. That's why Sherman said, war is all hell. Now, on May 5th, the battle began. Saunders Field saw some heavy fighting, and in the woods, there was still some fighting as well. In fact, some units in particular were actually scattered and even separated from their own army. For example, the 7th Pennsylvania Reserves found themselves lost. And they found themselves some Confederates, but the commanding officer of a Confederate regiment then told these guys that we have a large number of guys ahead of you. So instead of fighting, these guys surrendered, and they were marched off to be shipped off as prisoners of war. Now another regiment, the 20th Maine, it was one of those units. So in that particular scene, And even though they were vastly outnumbered, the 20th Maine fixed bayonets and they charged at a Confederate line. Though many of the Confederates scattered and ran, a few of them were taken prisoner. And remember what I said that many soldiers burned to death? Well, that's actually true, because due to the intense firefight and many of the shots hitting the ground, some of them actually sparked, caught fire. And many of the wounded in that particular battle were burned to death. They were burned away and lost forever. Although many of the wounded were saved, some of them were still burned to death. And it was pretty gruesome. Now, in regards to the aftermath of the battle, now this is according to Wikipedia, the strength of the Union Army was 118,000 plus soldiers for the Union Army. The Confederates had 66,000. Now, for the losses, it was a combined total. The Union lost 17,666 soldiers. The Confederates, 11,033 men. Now, on American Battlefield Trust, to which I am a member, by the way, the Union lost 17,000 and the Confederates 13,000. Now, it was said after the aftermath of the battle that Grant actually went inside his tent and wept. Now, the battle ended on May 7th, and today it's still inconclusive, meaning it wasn't finished. Now, even though the battle was all but over, well, what would the Union Army do? Would they retreat as all previous commanders do? Or would they march south to go to Richmond? Well, as you may know, the Union Army decided to march south. From there will be no retreat. These guys will fight on and they will take Richmond and even to hell if they have to. Now, the Battle of the Wilderness was mentioned numerous times. If you read various Civil War books and read various Civil War documentaries, even a few Civil War movies, it covers that particular subject. Now, there's a series that I saw called The Blue and the Gray, and it talked about the wilderness. And it was pretty gruesome. The History Channel series Grant covered Grant completely, and it even talked about the wilderness. And even a YouTube channel, to which I follow, called Lionheart Filmworks, they did a movie about the Battle of the Wilderness, and it covers 3 men from 2 different armies, the North and the South. They found themselves separated from their unit, and they decided to set up camp between Union and Confederate lines. Like dead center on the battlefield. There's no one around. And even though there was a battle, the movie these guys humanized these guys in this particular movie. If you haven't seen this movie that I'm talking about called Wicked Spring, check it out. It's still good. And now that the army is going down south, they fought on a few more battles along the way. They even fought at Todd's Tavern, which lasted on May 7th, meaning inconclusive, and all the way to Spotsylvania Courthouse, which lasted on May 9th to the 21st of 1864. Now, both Todd's Tavern and Spotsylvania Courthouse were inconclusive. Now, as I said, inconclusive means it wasn't finished. Nobody knew who won in that particular battle. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. And that concludes today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this, including many other videos that I've done on my channel, please feel free to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to my channel, and turn on the bell notification so that way you can be notified when I upload the next video. And as always, this is LEGO Mega 96-1, signing off.